here's something I would like to dig into, Ryan, is as I was thinking about this year 2020,
Yep.
I was also thinking about the last beginning of the decade we had, 2010.
Mm,
And I was just thinking about like, man, I wonder how much of 2010 was in some way foreshadowing of 2020. Like, was there a way that 2010 relates and mirrors 2020? Like, is there a way similar to chapters being written in a book and how we look at the 80s and how it affected the 90s? How maybe did the 2010s affect this next decade we're going into? So, what I was thinking about is maybe if we could just talk a little bit about the first 5 years of 2010 to 2015.
okay.
And a few things I want to talk about. One, I think a huge thing that's different right now than where we were at in 2010 was social media is like legit now. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like social media platforms have matured and become daily parts of our lives where I feel like 2010, 2012, these were all just things that kids did, and that was just how we communicated. It wasn't how the world communicated.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like I think I probably got my Facebook in I don't know 2008,
Yeah.
2009, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And so it makes me wonder, like, okay, social media has, now that it's ingrained in society, has made opinion sharing and opinion spreading so much more easier than it ever has, almost ever, you know?
Right.
Um, and so when it comes to this idea of, you know, social media is in a way the modern day printing press. Like
Sure.
when the printing press came back, or when it when it was born, it created this revolution of communication with the whole world. So when we're looking back from 2010 to 2015, how do you think social media influenced how people did college, how people did high school, how people lived?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I mean, I think even in terms of the evolution of social media from 2010 to now, there's also been an evolution, at least for I would imagine Generation Z or millennials specifically, that grew up with Facebook in 2008, 2009. Um, that there's an evolution in how you use it too. Like I was actually thinking about this morning. Where it's like I use the three ones that I use now is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I deleted my Twitter like 4 months ago because I was just sad after every time I got off. But all I get all my news from Twitter. Like anytime I want to see what's going on in the world, I just go to the explore page. So I deleted my Twitter and created a new Twitter and 0 followers, and I'm following no one just so I can go on the explore page and get news when I want it.
Hmm.
Um, so I use Twitter for news. I use Instagram for memes. The amount of I feel like I'm following more meme pages now than anything else.
Yeah.
And I use Facebook to watch my old high school classmates have political fights. That's the only reason I use Facebook now. Is it's not like I want to see what everyone's up to. It's who's arguing on Facebook right now
Right.
about the election, and I want to see it. I don't want to participate, but I want to see it.
Hmm.
Um, so the evolution of why I use because, like you said, 2010, you're using Facebook to chat it up. It's where my first conversation with my wife in 2011 started from Facebook.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was a Facebook message.
Wow.
My message said something along the lines of, "Are you the new girl?" And 10 years later, here we are. So Facebook changed my life.
Hmm.
Here we are.
Here it is. I remember Abigail Sheffer, if you're listening eventually, shout out Abigail Sheffer.
She's the mother of my godson.
That's true, actually.
That's true. It's
That's
actually true.
not a joke. And I remember, like literally just recently, I think she sent me something in Facebook Messenger. I think it was like an invite to something. But the last message we had between each other was in 2011, asking about like spiritual emphasis weekend. And she was like I think I'd asked her, hey, is this gonna be available at spiritual emphasis? And I don't know what it was. She's like, yeah. So it's funny going back to different Facebook Messenger
It is.
conversations.
It's kind of shameful too.
Mm-hmm.
See how you communicated 10 years ago.
Way less LOLs for me. It was more of
less.
haha with the XD as the
You did.
emoticons.
I do remember that about you. You loved the XD one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Quintessential Dino.
I'm still a big fan, honestly. I feel like I have to do the emojis now. I actually, on that note, I don't think I used emojis until 2014 because I refused to use them. I was like, we don't need emojis. We can use what we used to use. Just parentheses colon. That's all I need.
That's all you need.
But I ended up changing. Whatever.
Well, we all changed. But anyways,
we all change.
With my first answer was stupid. I guess the serious answer that you're probably looking for is I think social media just created an awareness that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming this is a universal statement, but I would imagine like it feels like the world is worse now than it was in 2010. And there are elements of that I think are true. But I think something that has just heightened our senses to that is that now I can see the perspective and the opinion of a 65-year-old woman that lives in Utah who I don't know what she looks like. I don't know who she is. And me reading her thoughts, if they make me angry, if they make me sad, creates a perception for me of what I think is happening in the world. Where 20 years ago, she could have had those same thoughts. You just had no idea. And so I think it's heightened our senses and made us a lot more aware, which I think has a lot of pros. I think there's a lot of good things that have come out of that. And like the racial injustice issue, I think, and we knew about that 60 years ago, but now you're seeing a lot of situations in, different states and different countries where, unless it was in your newspaper 40, 50 years ago, or happened to be, headline national news, you're not hearing about it. And so I think there's been good things that have come with, because it's shown us problems. And I think obviously the hope would be that now we can hopefully move forward in finding solutions to multiple different areas. But I think it also has hurt our emotional awareness in terms of it feels like everything is on fire all the time.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that because I feel like, something I hear often is like people complaining about being PC or political correctness. And like, yeah, I think there's definitely validity to it because I often feel frustrated with it too. But I think do you remember how ridiculous some of the movies that existed, like that came out, like some of the Will Ferrell, like super bad, like all these movies that were funny movies when we were in high school or, in that time period that were coming out just would not be allowed to come out at all.
I don't think The Office would work now.
No.
If you go back and watch The Office, there's a lot of stuff there that you're like,
right.
Don't say that now.
Yep. And something I was thinking about is why that is. And I think part of that is because social media goes into it. Is like, if I'm 14 with no Twitter and one Facebook account with just all my friends, my world is still relatively small, right? And so even if I go on, I'm not gonna go into some, I don't know, they had chat rooms, but no one actually went into those. Like, only the weird people used chat rooms.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Yeah, not me at all. Ryan, did you use chat rooms?
Me and the friends might have dipped our toes in chat roulette every now and then back.
Right. Just voicing your political opinions on Omegle with anyone who would listen. But yeah, so you see something offensive or something that you don't like,
right,
or that could be not emotionally sensitive, and who are you going to tell? Like your family, but just your friends. But Now, if you see something that you don't like, you can go online to a place where thousands of people can find you with
Right.
something like Reddit, where you can just post it on a page, and now everyone can see it.
Right.
And so I feel like messages are spread much faster than they used to.
And again, there's pros and cons to everything, or not
Mm-hmm.
everything. Pros and cons to a situation like this, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there are good things that can come about the constant awareness of things, or being able to express your opinion and have the potential for the world to see. I think there's potential good things come out of that, but of course there's potential negatives as well. I don't remember the study, I don't remember what it was, but I remember being in a marketing class at the University of Georgia.
Go dogs.
Go dogs. Someone's presentation, it was a multicultural marketing class, and someone's presentation was about social media and how psychologically our brain can only handle so much trauma. And once you hit that capacity, everything else becomes calloused.
Hmm.
So the argument was, every moment of every day you go on Twitter, you can read 8 tragedies that are happening in the world. And what's happened is now we're a lot more aware of our callousness, per se, because your brain can't handle to produce empathy for every possible thing you see, because then you're just swallowing in pain and sadness your entire life. And so your brain puts a cutoff mark of, this is the max amount that you can emotionally connect to. So
Dang.
I think that's just, and it makes sense. I mean, I can go on Twitter right now and you read terrible things that have happened, and you keep reading, or you keep working, you go back to class, and I think it's because our brain sees that so much that can't handle anymore.
Right. Totally. I mean, I agree. And I kind of get onto my parents for just like having Fox News on. Um, but I mean, I'm kind of doing the same thing if I'm
Yeah,
just scrolling on Twitter. So,
right.
and that's kind of something that I think is interesting, that with social media, when we started using Twitter and Instagram more and being able to follow other people who we might not even know. The difference with like Facebook and MySpace was, well, I don't know about MySpace. I can't even remember MySpace,
Love
honestly.
MySpace. Oh, I remember it
It
well.
was just like a fever dream. Like I remember being on it, but I can't for the life of me remember how it worked. I just remember having top 8 friends and that was it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That
So,
was the best part. You had made it when you were on a top friends list of a certain few people.
oh yeah. And I think you knew you were an influential person when the song that you had on your page someone else started using.
Mm,
That's for me. I was like, man, someone likes the song I posted. All right. So, but I think once we started being able to follow people, um, that was like when kind of groupthink or echo chambers started really taking off. You know what I mean? Like, because before then it was just your friends,
yeah.
but now I can follow specific people that are all going to say the same thing. And if you look at, for example, the movie The Social Dilemma, which is a very crazy movie, it kind of shows you how society divides and
Yeah.
how it gets further and further away from each other. I think part of that has to do with people following each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Again, like I think people now, and I'm not throwing myself out of this category, but it's so easy now to hear a situation or hear a context and immediately get into defensive mode of, well, this is what's bad about it, or well, this is what's good about it, versus the understanding that if context is king, there's truth to both. There are good things that have come from social media. There's obviously a lot of bad.
Hmm.
And I don't, but this is the world we live in now. So I don't see it going away anytime soon. I could be drastically wrong, but now there's evolution of social media where Facebook's now probably run more by our parents or people our parents' age. But then Twitter evolve, like you evolve into Twitter, and then you evolve into Instagram, and you know in 5 years will there be a new one? Maybe, but I certainly don't see a world where that we would get rid of this.
I can't wait until TikTok is solely run by grandparents.
Oh my gosh.
That'll be an amazing time.
I was I was so I was so mad at TikTok today because Kaylin watches TikTok and I don't have TikTok. So she will do like I guess TikTok trends to me, but I don't know what they are. And
Yeah.
then I get upset because like why did we just do this? And so and now China knows what you're doing, Dean. So
Now they know.
now they know everything you're up to. They're
Frick.
listen to this podcast right now because of your TikTok.
Hey, that's one more person, right? Amen. Can I get an
Amen.
amen? That's good.
Seek after the one. That's what
Jason
Dad
to
says.
the one. um, something that I think is interesting, at least when I was thinking about 2015 to 2019, I feel like that was when the idea of being a social media influencer and it being a job, that's when it became legit. Like up
Yeah.
until 2015, those didn't really exist.
Yeah.
Even YouTubers weren't super organized around just like one person. But I feel like only in the last 5 years has the idea of like an influencer been something achievable and like I don't know, an actual role. So I don't know what sort of impact do you think that's had? Like with people with the number one role, the number one job that kids in the world want nowadays is content creator. They don't want to be an astronaut anymore. They don't want to be a firefighter. They want to be a content creator.
That's like the was it is it Tim Elmore wrote that book Marching Off the Map talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah.
So how do you think that's affected, I don't know, just how we talk to each other?
How do I think the idea of influences has impacted how we talk to each other
How we
or how
talk to each other or maybe even who we listen to, you know?
yeah. Well, again, I think it gave us a lot of access to listen to a lot of people, but you follow the narrative that you're creating in your head. So people listen and agree with other people who believe the same things as them. So it kind of furthers your narrative. So I think the way it's impacted us communicating with each other is I agree wholeheartedly with the social dilemma. It's created this massive divide because I can go on any social media website and go online and find someone that believes the exact thing I do, and it affirms my belief. But then at the same time, someone that believes the complete opposite as me is like, well, that they're ridiculous because I'm being affirmed in my belief, which I think makes it feel different for someone that believes something else.
Yeah.
Is that what I don't know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. I think too something that I think of a lot is it's the same thing. This is going to sound very 45-year-old of me,
Sick.
but when rich people tell us how we should be treating like the world or
Yeah.
poor people, it's like Tom Hanks, I love you as an actor, but you do not know how to run a government. I don't. But just because you're really good at acting, I don't think should really give you the influence to say, "Hey, we need to have more tacos at the Subway" or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think the question should be whether it should give them influence because in reality it does,
Yeah.
right? And so like I understand in a way I understand people's argument where they're saying like, well, if you're a celebrity, if you're an athlete, like the shut up and play stuff, which I think a lot of that's really I think a
Right.
lot of that's ridiculous because I think I would do the same thing.
Hmm.
If you don't if let's say from a context of an athlete, you're not necessarily choosing millions of people to love you. You played a sport and you're really good at that sport and now people are attracted to you. If I was in that space, I can't say that I wouldn't avoid hard conversations because I now know there's this pressure or this weight of people look at me and they listen to what I want to have to say. And so should they or should they not? I don't know, but I don't know if that's the argument. I don't know if that's the question because the reality is they do have it.
Hmm.
And it's like if I had that influence, would I want to take as much advantage of it as possible? And maybe. I
Hmm.
just, I think that's hard to answer, obviously, because it's not a space I'm in. But
I
I don't know.
100% agree. I think that's really cool. I mean, yeah, because when you look at, I don't know, you see and you realize how many eyeballs are on you. Wouldn't you want to share what you believe in with all of them?
Right.
Whether or not they agree with you or not, you're like, hey, this is what I believe and this is what I'm chasing after. It's something I want to ask about. Is Colin Kaepernick like alive? Does he exist still?
Is he alive? Yes. I mean, unless something happened today, I believe. Yeah, I think so.
I actually was he just straight up canceled because of like he's just gone because of taking a knee?
You mean from the NFL?
Yeah.
Well, I think the NFL's argument is he wasn't a good enough football player. At that period of time, I watched zero NFL, so I legitimately cannot speak to that because I just don't know.
Right.
But from perception, it looks like he was canceled because of that. Again, whether it's the only thing that makes me question it is there's a lot of really bad backup quarterbacks in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And like, is he not backup quarterback status? I also, again, another context with this, the grand scheme of social media, we see clips of things and automatically think we now see the complete picture of what's going on. And that's just not the case at all. I don't know what NFL like NFL sports team owners and coaches are saying. Like, there's so much that we don't see. All you see is one thing, and it's just so easy to create a narrative. Well, because I know one piece of the puzzle, this is what the puzzle is. And so I say that to say, from what it has looked like from the narrative I've seen, is that they've canceled him because of that.
Hmm.
Um, but I think he's alive.
That's good.
I think he's breathing.
God
Yeah.
bless him.
Yeah.
I was worried about him for a little bit because I was like, man, I have not heard about Colin Kaepernick in a little bit. So I hope his afro is doing okay.
It was a sick afro. It
It's,
honestly was
it's
great.
pretty impressive, honestly.
Really nice.
So let's take a look at 2010. Ryan, I want you to transport yourself back to sophomore year of high school. And if anyone else is listening to this, I want you to transport yourself, maybe not to sophomore year because your sophomore year might have been different at different times, but transfer yourself back to 2010. Specifically, like October 2010. I mean, for me, I remember hearing the song TikTok by Kesha for the first time and thinking it was a masterpiece because it is. I remember listening to a CD of ABBA, playing it in Ryan, your and I's math class with Miss Diane, Miss Diane Cartmel at the time.
I have zero recollection of
You don't
that
remember
now.
that?
Nope.
I remember because you were on the far right side of the room, and I was kind of closer to the door.
I remember that. Yep.
And I remember asking Mrs. Cartmel, "Hey, can I bring a CD player and play ABBA when we're kind of working on stuff?" She's like, "Yeah, I love ABBA." And for Miss Cartmel to agree with me like that, that meant a lot.
Yep.
So I definitely brought that in. I remember that. I also remember checking in on Facebook and MySpace to see if Shelby Hensley had messaged me back. Shout outs. So Facebook and MySpace. Do you remember like balancing Facebook and MySpace? I did that for a little bit.
Absolutely. Do you remember Zanga before all of it?
I never got in on Zanga.
Never had a Zanga? Man.
No.
I was first cyberbullied by Zanga in like middle school. It's not a joke. Like, my first cyberbullying experience was someone commented on my Zanga and said, like, lock your doors tonight because I'm gonna kill you or something like that. And it was a big deal. Like, it terrified me
Oh my god.
as a middle schooler.
This person's like acting like they're hacking you. But that's scary though. Like to get that for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough I've never had someone give me a death threat yet. So that's when I know I'll made it. Like I'll have made it. Is when I start getting death
Go back
threats.
to Zanga. Apparently it happens within days and or hours of you being on there.
It's amazing. What
2010,
was 2010 for you, Ryan?
2010 was a weird year because I switched schools for
Oh
a
yeah.
semester. Um, and so, I mean, 2010, like quintessential Ryan in high school was a bit of a d bag.
Mm,
It's just the truth. I'm not gonna hide from my past. I'm just gonna embrace it and
mm.
learn and live from it.
That's right.
Uh, And yeah, I think baseball was king. It's all I wanted to do. It's all I wanted. It's all I cared about. S- School has always come easy to me, which sounds like a
Sounds kind of douchey, honestly.
it sounds kind of douchey to say, but like I care so little about school that like in my head it means nothing. I just didn't care then, and because of that, like I just kind of like went through it, played baseball, um, and probably was too mean to girls. And this was 2010 was like 3 months before I met my now wife, Kaylin. So that was like the coming down of I'm single, I'm living it up. It's weird to think that like other than like a few spurts of time, 2010 was like really the last time I was single. That's a weird thing. That's a weird thing to say.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's a long time, Ryan.
a long time. Jeez.
Hmm. Man. Well, yeah, I thought 2010 was such an interesting year, and as I was reflecting on it, it it was just making me wonder a few things. One of those is I remember specifically Obama had just been elected, like a couple years, like a year prior, and I remember hearing about how he was the Antichrist.
I heard that too. Yep. Yeah.
And so even like
Wait, hey,
politically,
can we before we keep going, can we just clarify? Like, hey guys, I don't believe Obama's Antichrist at all.
just huge disclaimer real quick for
Yeah, I
those of
just
you
want
back
to
home.
disclaim that what I was told in 2010 is not what I believe now. I think the man's got the sauce. I
Mm.
think I
He,
love the man.
I
I'll
think
say
he's a spokesman for that gin and tonic, right?
he's a spokesperson for Hendrix.
For
That is true.
Hendrix.
Yep. He says our sauce tastes like gin, and then it just shows him drinking the gin. So politics or no politics aside, you know, he's a good looking man. I'll
Good
say it.
looking. Not to mention, it is crazy to see how he's aged, but he's aged very well.
He aged well for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. So yeah, just a quick, it's in 2021. I still want to be like, yeah, well, we heard this in 2010, and not just be like, well,
He's
yeah, that's not a thing.
no,
It doesn't exist.
not at all. And that was so funny. But as I remember thinking about that, I was basically just thinking like how I don't know. Maybe it was the fact that I was in high school, but how small my world felt in that moment. Like how I didn't really reflect that much on my own personal feelings. I didn't really care too much about what happened outside of Hebron Christian Academy. Um, but I feel like now it's different. I feel like high schoolers, I feel like people nowadays think much bigger, maybe because the world feels even more small because of social media.
Yeah.
Um, so that's just as I was thinking. But as we go into this discussion, I just wanted us to be thinking about that because 2020 overall was a very much I'd like to say it's a wake up call. Maybe it was more of an intermission to what life has been like for the last couple of years. Like leading up to 2020, it's all just kind of felt like this one big roller coaster. And 2020 was like the moment you stop to get off the ride or you stay on for another round. And as I was reflecting on it, we can easily look back at 2020 and say, okay, 2020 was actually awful because we have so many things to complain about. We have COVID, We have murder hornets. World War III almost started. A presidential election took place. And many more. Many more, right? And so instead of looking at everything that went bad, Ryan, I'd like to ask you, what were you grateful for in 2020?
Yeah. I think 2020 for probably most people, at least from the experience that I've had with being able to think back and process like different seasons of life, it kind of you kind of have to get out of it to be able to think about it, or at least be enough separated where you actually kind of see from a big picture perspective, like, well, this is actually how I felt. Like I kind of equate it to like in 2018, I was like, just to be honest, was like a big depressive year for me. But I wouldn't have claimed that in 2018. Like it took me 2019 to be able to look back and be like, I was off severely.
Hmm.
And so I think for 2020, I don't think the year, we don't process those things in terms of January 1 to December 31st. But I think 2020 is going to require some processing from everyone. And 2020 had a lot of silver linings to it. I think it's, again, I don't think you can accurately justify a year as good or bad. 2020 was hard. 2020 was really hard in a wide variety of ways. Um, and but within it there were silver linings. Getting to spend every day with Kaylin was a silver lining. Like we had never had that in the 10 years we've been together. So being able to be around each other was fun. It was exciting. It was that part of it was enjoyable. I think 2020 showed me a lot about myself and how I prefer to be way more in control than I knew I wanted to be. Where there were things that were happening that I couldn't dictate in my personal life or couldn't control in my personal life. And it made me realize, like, I've subtly been controlling everything without knowing it. And now that I can't, I'm kind of crumbling a little bit. And so I think it was very introspective, showed me a lot about who I was. And in the midst of, a lot of the pain and hardship that came with it. So I think a lot of it for me was more kind of like interpersonal stuff, whether that's with the relationships I built or what I learned. Um, it, it brought that. And then, like, honestly, and for me personally, I got to keep my job. It's a huge blessing that, I don't want to take for granted. Like my family as of now has, other than there's been some stuff other than COVID, but like COVID wise, they've stayed healthy, and that's a blessing. And I know that I'm not, a lot of people can't say that, but we're saying for 2020 for me, that's what I would say.
That's good. Yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, myself included, I don't think I realized I needed half of that stuff to happen in my life. Because I remember leading up to March, I don't think, like, for the last 7, 8 months, I don't think I would have admitted that I was burning out.
Yeah.
Like, I think I just thought I had to work harder, and I was in this momentum of just going forward, not realizing I was falling over head first.
Right.
But as I was forced to slow down, it was a mixture of really unhealthy for me and very good for me at the same time, because it gave me rest, but at the same time it revealed to me how much lack of, maybe the best way to say is like lack of discipline I had in my life. Like most of the systems that were in place were not my systems. They were the system around me, whether it was having to be at work at a certain time, my workout class, um, someone else calling to ask me to do something. So like when it became totally open, because I couldn't go to work, I couldn't go to the gym, I had to stay home, my ability to set my own internal clock proved to be awful. It was just
Yeah.
very bad. Um, and so at first it made me very upset, and it kind of showed me how bad I was at that. Because there'd be nights, I mean, I easily got to the point of staying up till like 3 in the morning to watch anime. Or just like watching TV and then waking up at 9:30, 10 and doing it all over again. But I'm grateful for it at the same time because it was a wake up call to me to say, like, hey, this isn't healthy,
Yeah.
and you have to learn how to do that yourself instead of relying on other people to do that for you, which for me was just huge. And I think it reminded me also, and I think this is something that people, including myself, can struggle with a lot. I don't know about you, Ryan, but I always do feel like I have to prove that I'm happy to everyone else around me. Otherwise, people are going to be upset.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Dino, you're so happy. You should be happy. Why are, like, I've I've been discouraged most of my life from uh being sad because I've had people pull me aside and be like, "You can't afford to be sad." And they were trying to instill leadership in me, but what it did is by them saying, "Hey, you can't afford to be sad because we need your energy," kind of told me like, "Oh, I just can't be sad."
Yeah.
So I think this was good because it allowed me to slow down and be like, am I happy? And the answer that came back was no.
Right.
And so it allowed me to figure out, dream, and think about why I'm not happy and how I can change that.
Yeah.
So that was really cool for me, honestly. I don't know. I feel like it's oftentimes we don't sit back and think about how we feel and how we got there. Did you experience any of that this year?
Yeah. I mean, I think we try to look for like simple equations to life, right? Like this happened, and because of it, now this happened. And I think life's a lot more complicated than that, where I think it's easy to think like 2020 was hard, and because it was hard, therefore it was bad. And I think it's just hard. In my opinion, it's hard to justify it as that. Like 20, I think first and foremost, I think the willingness to admit that 2020 was rough. And I'm sure there's some people out there that it may have been great for them, but it seems like the grand scheme of things, it was rough for a lot of people. And I think one, especially in Christian circles, it seems like there's trying to be this avoidance of the pain that 2020 was for people. Like I heard someone making a joke about this the other day. It's like, you know, if you went to church every day, you probably wouldn't know that 400,000 people had died. You would just know about the funny videos that came from it, or like quarantine life and things. Because so, and again, it's not a, I'm not pooling every church in the world, but for so much it was, let's talk about the funny stuff and avoid that. This is hurting a lot of people. And so I think the first thing to admit is that it was hard. It was hard for me. It sounds like it was hard for you, but hard doesn't mean bad. And I when I look back in the grand scheme of my life, the times that I learned the most were probably really difficult times. It's like I rarely think back and be like, wow, that time was amazing and I learned so much. It's no, that time sucked really, really bad, but this is what I learned from it. And so like pain brings fruit sometimes. And so because of that, I think 20, again, like, was 2020 good for some people? Maybe. In some areas, yes. In a lot of areas, no. But life is beautiful, and then it's painful, and then it's beautiful again. And that cycle just continues, and it'll continue in 2021, and it'll continue in 2022. And I'm hoping and believing it doesn't continue as severe as 2020 was, but that same trend will be the case. Things are going to happen. And it's hard for me to live peacefully when I'm constantly stuck in, when bad things happen, my life is bad.
Hmm.
Versus you can have bad days and hard moments, but that's not equating to the grand scheme of my life.
Hmm.
That's my ramble.
Yeah, I mean, That's super important to think about because often I think we are, as Americans and as Christians too, we often can take and believe the lie that, hey, if you're doing everything right and life feels good, then that's like what you want.
Yeah.
I feel like I grew up thinking my goal was to be comfortable and to have everything just be happy go lucky. And I think we so often forget how important doing hard things is.
Yeah. It's
And yeah,
this
what?
is it's going to sound like it's going to sound like a flex. It just should not be at all. Have you ever had a situation where you gave someone advice and then they gave you that same advice later down the road and you're like, where did this go? Like, how did I miss this?
Like as
I was,
in yeah, tell me about it. I
I
think
was
I know what you're talking
talking,
about.
talking to a friend a couple months ago, and honestly, I don't even remember the context. And we were talking on the phone, and they were like, 4 years ago, you told me to sit in the pain, and I feel like you just need to sit in it.
Hmm.
And I was like, how was that not my number one thing to think through? Like if that was what I told you, um, but I say that to say like I think yeah, like there's sometimes you just got to embrace the hurt a little bit. It's like you said, it's so easy to avoid. Like your justification of a good life is I'm peaceful and I'm not homeless. Where in reality, like there's going to be consistent painful moments and moments that are hard and difficult, and that is not a like peace doesn't necessarily equate to the life that you want because I've learned a lot through my really hard times. I'm sure I'll learn a lot through 2020, whether it's stuff I know now or stuff I'll know next year. But I think sometimes it's okay to kind of sit in the grief a little bit and not for too long, not every day, but enough to grieve it, mourn it, learn from it, and just keep going.
Yeah, that's good. Man, I couldn't have said it better myself, Ryan. I to close out and to end on something, I would like to I we're gonna do a thought experiment, Ryan.
Love thought experiments.
So I believe that there was two times I've lived through personally two moments in times where I felt there was actual world peace. One of those was Pokemon Go. I feel like the first 3, 4 weeks, the first month of Pokemon Go, truly, like we were there. We'd reached the top. Everyone was just going around. I think I talked to way more people when Pokemon Go first came out than I'd ever had ever. I mean, did you do Pokemon Go?
Oh yeah. I mean, not for long. I mean, probably at a month or two. I know a lot of people really went into it for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
But oh yeah, we would be sitting in the office and someone would be like, "There's a squirrel down the
Oh my
hall."
gosh.
Everyone would get up and sprint and try to find it.
Mm-hmm. I remember. I remember. I went down to Disney World with my brother and his now wife, and my brother he was going off. We would be walking around, and then we just turn around and be like, "Where'd Blake go?" He would just disappear, and he would come back. We'd text him, and he would come back, and he's like, "Found a Venusaur. Sorry." We're like, "What?" So he would just leave. It was cool.
I mean, in reality, it was a very dangerous game.
Very dangerous. I think people were getting mugged. Weren't people getting mugged by just going off in dark alleys? Something like that?
Probably.
Yeah. I think I remember Justin Bieber tweeting about it. I'm not sure. But the second time, I feel like we had genuine world peace. Maybe I'm looking at life with rose-colored lenses, but I believe the second time ever was maybe that first 2 weeks of quarantine and everyone was watching Tiger King.
Mm.
It was like worldwide. We all agreed that Carol Baskins had killed her husband, and life was just good.
as soon as you said that, like my body felt like an inkling of the feeling I had back then, and it was peaceful. It was
Mm-hmm.
like
Ah,
I remember like us making dinner quickly to sit down and finish that show. And
it was
wow,
nuts, dude. I remember because, yeah, I think that's one of those ones everyone has like that. I remember when I watched Tiger King
yeah.
sort of feeling. And it was fun. And so my thought experiment is both of these, were in moments of a worldwide craze that happened. And I'd love for us to use our creative juices real quick, Ryan. Do you think in the next 5 years there could be another world peace moment? And what do you think it could be? I'll go first just to give you some time. I feel like obviously if we're looking at it has to be some sort of app. And if we're looking at, social equity and why Pokemon worked, why Tiger King works, I feel like there's going to be a moment where there's going to be it's got to be probably during a presidential election. It's going to be right after. And I feel like there's going to be an app that comes out that's all about hand delivering you Chick-fil-A. I don't know. I feel like once we can truly get worldwide Chick-fil-A delivery, that's when
Mm,
we'll be set.
love Chick-fil-A. You're wrong, but love Chick-fil-A.
That's fair.
I have an answer, and if I say so myself, I think it's a very accurate answer.
Okay.
Are we saying, let me clarify, are we saying world or are we saying country?
We can country works.
I can give both.
Let's go with both. Why not?
Okay. So let's say in term the next time I think we'll feel country peace is the first championship game of any sport that lets full capacity in the stadium.
Mm.
I think when stadiums start getting back to having 50, 60, 70,000 people in it, I think there's going to be a period of time where it's like we are back to what things used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be I'm thinking like the World Series after September 11th type feel. Like
Mm.
you just feel proud to be an American, that you get to sit there and watch baseball and eat a hot dog.
Yeah.
Um, if it's the world, I think it's the 2022 World Cup in the same logic. If one thing that I think historically has always brought people together is a World Cup where you're watching, supporting your country going against another country. But in the same context, if that's going to be the first time that we can pack stadiums out for the world to see, I think there's going to be like we're going to be okay type of
Mm.
thing.
That's actually a really smart answer. And let's take it a step further, Ryan.
Okay.
What if what if Eurovision branches out to the whole world?
Then that's the answer. And that's
Earth
a
Vision.
I listened to Will Ferrell soundtrack today while I was working his Eurovision
It's good.
album. It's it's better than good.
It's great.
It's great.
I'll say this right before, we'll end the podcast on this. I think Eurovision, and this is actually possibly another hot take that we just need to record on our own, is I believe, we just talked about Tiger King, but I think the highest quality of content of entertainment that was produced in all of 2020 was Eurovision.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I
Mm,
love the film.
it's so good. You introduced it to me, and
I
so
did. That's right.
I'm a big fan, and I was so mad at my 2020 Spotify Wrapped because right, I had a playlist that was like a worship playlist that I would play every morning. So I don't actually this sounds awful. I don't actually care about the worship music I listen to. I just
Okay.
need something to like set the mood for me to do my quiet time and to
Okay.
pray. So whatever songs they were, I don't give a rip.
Ooh.
I mean, I could, whatever. Anyways, you know what I mean. But that being said, that playlist in listening to it almost every morning completely ruined my Spotify
That'll happen
Wrapped,
to you. Yep.
because all my top artists were elevation worship, Hillsong worship, whatever, and then my top songs were all worship songs.
Can we play a quick 30-second game?
Absolutely.
Pull up your phone, go to your Spotify Wrapped, and tell me how many times you played your top song.
Okay. Wait. Oh wait. Okay. Spotify Wrapped. How do I do that?
I think you can type it in on Spotify and it'll
Okay.
pop up for you.
Spotify Wrapped. Oh no, that's a rap playlist. Wait, I can just go to my actual top songs 2020. Does it say where how wait, hold on. I'm sorry.
Dino, do you have the Spotify app?
Yeah.
If you type in Wrapped, WRAPPED,
Okay. On
then
just on the browse page?
yeah, I mean, unless they took it off.
Okay. Is it just the playlist, right?
Well, so there used to be that thing where you could scroll through, right? I mean, you used to be able to look it up.
Right.
Can you
Let
maybe
me
Google it?
Yeah, let's do that. We're gonna do that. We're gonna take a ride down memory lane here.
I say it for a specific context. Let's see.
2020. Let's see. Well, let me log in here.
They may have taken it off.
Yeah, I think they might have.
I say all of that to say I have a friend. My top song was listened to, I think, like 63 times or something like
Oh
that.
my god.
I have a friend whose top song he listened to 730 times. And
730?
30, and his first stream of that song was in May.
Holy frick.
So if you feel like you were obsessed with this song, you really weren't, to the context of what this guy was. And it was not, I can't remember what the song was, but it wasn't a good song.
Oh my god. I have a screenshot here. It's not a good screenshot. Basically just I listened to, okay, actually, this is my biggest flex, I'd say. Here's my top artists in order. Hillsong Worship, Hillsong Young and Free, Passion, and then we have My Marianne, which is the girl who actually did the vocals for Rachel McAdams, and then Will Ferrell. Those are my top 5.
So you really went all in on the soundtrack.
Oh yeah. I literally, for most of quarantine, that was what I'd play while I worked. It's just the whole thing. And it was no regrets, honestly. No regrets. Well, we'll end it on that with some foreshadowing on maybe a future Hot Takes episode all about Eurovision. That being said, Ryan, do you have any last words you'd like to say?
All I'll say is if you disagree with me, we can throw hands. That's all. That's all there is to it. So
cool.
I can send my address later.
Yeah, we can go to the playground or something.
Yeah,
that works too.
You can figure it out.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thanks for sharing that. Guys, if you're watching this right now, we've got 1 viewer. Guys, this is awesome. They've been pretty consistent. I don't know if this is Jason, if it's Mark. Who knows? It's just you. It's not even my mom. That's the thing. It's not even my mom. But if you're watching this later on, if you're listening to this, thanks so much for listening. Why we believe 2020 was actually a good year for us. Yeah, that's all we got for today. We will see y'all next time. And until then, stay swaggy. I don't know.
Stay frosty.
Stay frosty. Okay, right. That's the podcast. It's over. Ryan, we got some time left. Why don't I'll give you free reign to say whatever you want on my channel right now. We're live. We got one viewer. What do you want them to know?
Your Twitch channel?
Yeah.
Oh man. Listen here, nerds. You aren't watching Super Mario speed runs. then you're not really doing anything with your life on Twitch. Stop watching Fortnite. Stop watching anything other than Super Mario
Oh
speedruns.
my God.
It's the only thing I ever have watched on Twitch, and it was 2015, and it was a beautiful thing. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was a master, just true mastermind. So
Wow.
it's motivating. It makes me want to be better, you know?
Mm. Amen. Dude, I want to read through some of this chat here that played while we were discussing. There's this guy named David who hopped in, and I just wanna share what he said. I think he's in eighth grade. He said, "Hey, yo, Dino." Of course, I didn't say anything. When are we doing the online Smash tournament? Hopefully soon. The answer is yes, hopefully soon. He says, "I got the top row of characters into the Elite Smash today." That's awesome, David. And then he just in all caps says, "Boring." And then, okay, I'm gonna head out. What an
I mean,
encourager.
Dino, isn't your whole goal is to just rally hordes upon hordes of eighth graders and, teach them about the good and bad of life?
That's kind of what I was hoping. I will say this, Ryan. As I've been, what's the word? Seriously brainstorming how to best grow online as a content creator, I realized I could totally sell out and only make content for fifth graders.
You definitely could.
And then, but it would be the long game because what would happen is all the fifth graders would grow up and I would purposely keep track of what grade they're in. So that way I make content specifically for that grade for the next 10 years. And then they'll be like, wow, I love that guy. And so now I have a whole generation behind me.
I support it. I think you should do it.
Yeah. Gosh, but I just really don't want to do prank videos. That's the thing.
Is that what the fifth graders are into nowadays?
I'm sure it is. Prank
Still,
videos in Minecraft.
still Minecraft is still a thing?
Oh, it's resurged.
Oh
It's
wow.
crazy right now.
Okay, so you may know the answer to this. Is Minecraft literally all you do is build, or is there other things you can do within Minecraft?
It's That's the thing is you can do whatever you want. It's very much a sandbox game.
Or
It
am I playing with other people?
Yeah, you can play with other people. So
Like,
you
is it online versions of it?
so
Okay.
that's part of like so there's this YouTuber named well, I'm sorry. This YouTuber named Dream who recently just blew up within literally the last year. He went from like 0 subscribers to 4 million.
Oh, wow.
Part of it is he really studied the YouTube algorithm and figured out exactly what to do at what stages to grow like that. But he hopped on one of his biggest videos that helped blow him up was he did Minecraft Manhunt. And so he got a ton of other popular Minecraft YouTubers and played Manhunt on like this huge open world.
No, that's cool.
And that's kind of the big thing that blew him up, sort of thing. But he what was the main thing? But yeah, I honestly have never played Minecraft, nor am I planning to.
Yep.
But I did hop on and play, like Brennan was streaming it at one point.
Okay.
And so I hopped on. He was like, "Do you want to try this?" I was like, "Sure, I'll just try it out, whatever." And then, like, I spent 30 minutes just digging, but I had so much fun. I was just like digging around, and they're like, "Dino, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know, but this is awesome." And they're like, "Classic noob Minecrafter."
You want to do is dig.
Classic noob.
Dig and you dig and you
Dig. I was just trying to recreate the movie, holes.
Well, it's a classic.
What if you could probably recreate that whole movie with Minecraft?
You definitely could.
That's the thing. That was something Mr. Beast, a YouTuber, he even made this whole video series where he's like, "Hey, whatever you build in Minecraft, I'll buy for you." So people were building like Lamborghinis and he would just buy them a Lamborghini.
Wow.
It was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
All right, Dean.
You ready?
It's my time. It's my time to drift away into the distance.
Drift off, my friend. Thanks for hopping in, Ryan. It was fun.
Pleasure's always.
Yeah, dude. We'll come up with some good topics for next week with Blake and William.
Blake and the boys.
Blake and the boys. That's actually the new name of this podcast.
Blake and the boys.
Yeah. All right, Ryan.
All
well,
right.
I'll catch you later.
Yes, sir. See ya.
See ya. Bye. Love you. He didn't say it back. No!